At 03:47 local time, the MV Ariana Star, a Maltese flag bulk carrier hauling grain through the central Gulf of Oman, had been on a routine transit corridor that the U.S. Fifth Fleet had declared clear less than 6 hours earlier. No surface threats, no elevated IRGC patrol activity, nothing on the radar picture that warranted a second look. Aboard USS Gravely, a destroyer running 38 nautical miles southwest of the contact's last position, the watch officer stared at the frequency. The transmission had come in on Channel 16 Standard Maritime Distress. Proper protocol, proper format, but the voice underneath the words had been flat. Controlled, not panic. That detail went into the log. Nobody knew yet why it mattered. Gravely came to flank speed and altered course. Standard response. Textbook. The crew had done it before. A fishing vessel with engine trouble. A tanker with a medical emergency. Twice for vessels that turned out to be fine and had simply hit the wrong button. This felt different, but feelings don't go in a tactical picture. Data does. What the data showed, a 45,000-ton bulk carrier sitting dead in the water, no AIS movement, no response on any frequency. Located inside a shipping lane that 3 Iranian fast attack craft had crossed going northbound 40 minutes earlier. That last part had been logged too. The fast boats had turned north and vanished from the surface picture. That was unusual. Iranian Revolutionary Guard Navy fast boats don't go north in that corridor. They work the choke points, they harass, they circle, they don't retreat. Nobody had an explanation for it yet. 212 nautical miles to the northwest, an E-2D Hawkeye, call sign Deep Water, was already building a track file that told a completely different story. The aircraft's APS-145 radar was painting the surface picture with a clarity no ship-based system could match at that range. But it saw not 3 fast boats. 7. The other 4 were running without lights, without AIS, hugging the Iranian coastline at low speed, holding position, waiting. Deep Water passed the track file to Gravely at 03:54. The watch officer read it twice. 7 fast boats, not 3, and sitting 17 nautical miles behind the cluster, barely at the edge of the Hawkeye's reliable identification range, was a contact that did not belong in this picture at all. Too large for a patrol craft, too slow for a missile boat. The radar return was consistent with something in the 1,400 to 1,500 ton range. The Iranian frigate Sahand operated in that weight class. Sahand had been logged at Bandar Abbas 48 hours ago. It was supposed to be in port. Here is what you need to understand about what this moment meant, because most analyses of this encounter miss it entirely. An Iranian frigate does not leave its patrol zone and steam 200 nautical miles north for an exercise. It doesn't do that without orders from a level of command that doesn't issue orders for harassment operations. If Sahand was here, then whatever was about to happen to the Ariana Star was not an improvised shakedown by Revolutionary Guard speedboats. This had been planned. This had a command signature. And the 7 fast boats weren't the main event. They were geometry. They were there to shape where Gravely would have to go. Gravely's commanding officer, Commander Elena Marsh, was on the bridge by 03:58. She had the track file. She had the contact on Sahand. She had a cargo ship that had gone silent 11 minutes ago and had not moved a meter since. Her orders were to respond to a vessel in distress. Her tactical picture was telling her something else was happening. She requested a second asset. Fifth Fleet gave her a helicopter. 1 MH-60R, call sign Iran Hand, and told her to assess before escalating. Iran Hand lifted off Gravely's flight deck at 4:36 and pushed toward the Ariana Star at 1:45 knots. What it found, 6 minutes later, changed everything. The Ariana Star was not dark. The ship's running lights were off. The bridge window showed no illumination, and there was no visual movement on deck. That was consistent with a vessel under Iranian control, but the helicopter's systems were picking up something the surface picture had not shown: an intermittent electronic emission from the ship's upper superstructure. Short burst. Encrypted. The frequency was not civilian maritime. It was not a distress beacon. It was not a navigation radar. It was a military IFF transponder signal. Specifically, it was transmitting a Mode 4 squawk, a military identification code. And when Iran Hand's systems ran the interrogation return against the database, the code came back as US Navy. The cargo ship was transmitting a friendly forces identifier. Someone on that ship had access to a US military IFF transponder and was using it, which meant the Ariana Star was not simply a vessel under attack. It was either a vessel carrying someone the US military needed to know about, or it was bait designed by someone who understood exactly how the US Navy would respond to a US IFF squawk. Commander Marsh had 30 seconds to decide which one it was. She didn't wait for the answer. She did both things simultaneously. She requested authorization to arm Gravely's surface engagement systems, and she ordered Iranian to hold at 2 miles and not approach the vessel. If the IFF was bait, going closer would complete the trap. If it was genuine, the person transmitting already knew help was inbound. Fifth Fleet authorized weapons free on defensive engagement criteria. The 4 fast boats that had been holding against the Iranian coastline began to move. They were not moving toward the Ariana star. They were moving toward Gravely. The geometry was now visible, and it was precise. 2 fast boats from the south, 2 from the east. Classic encirclement approach. The same formation the IRGCN had used in the 2019 Gulf provocations, designed to force a surface combatant to either hold course and accept being boxed, or maneuver and open up a firing solution for something behind them. Behind Gravely, to the northwest, was Sahand. Gravely was not the response force. Gravely was the target. The crew had trained for this geometry. The ANSPY-1D radar was tracking all 4 fast boats simultaneously. Fire control solutions were building on each contact, and the forward 5-inch gun had already been brought to local control. At 38 nautical miles, Sahand was inside the range envelope of Gravely's standard missiles. Sahand's own anti-ship missiles had a similar reach. What neither side knew yet was what Gravely's sonar had detected at 4:21. A contact. Submerged, bearing 195, moving at low speed. The acoustic signature was consistent with a diesel-electric submarine running on battery power, nearly silent, but not quite. A Kilo class, or an Iranian Fate-class boat, would produce exactly this return in these water conditions. The contact was 4,200 meters southwest of Gravely's current position and closing. The encirclement had a 4th dimension. It went underwater. Gravely's ASW coordinator reported the contact to the bridge at 4:22. Commander Marsh received the report, acknowledged it in 3 words, and then said nothing for 11 seconds. Her crew would later describe those 11 seconds as the longest of the deployment. The tactical picture was complete now, and it was not a harassment operation. 7 fast boats, 1 frigate, 1 submarine, a cargo ship transmitting a military IFF code. The entire engagement was constructed to do one specific thing: put Gravely in a position where every response it could make to one threat would make it more vulnerable to another. If it engaged the fast boats, the submarine had a shot. If it maneuvered against the submarine, it opened a corridor for Sahand. If it went to the Ariana star, it sailed into the center of the box. The person who planned this understood how an Arleigh Burke destroyer fights. They had built a scenario specifically designed for one. What they had not accounted for was what was already airborne. At 4:08, 2 minutes after Iranian launched, Gravely had also transmitted a contact report to the Eisenhower Strike Group, then operating 310 nautical miles to the west. The carrier's air wing had 2 FA-18F Super Hornets on Alert 5, engines warm, crew strapped in. They had been there since the original Mayday. At 4:09, they were given taxi clearance. At 4:11, they were airborne. At 4:23, 2 minutes after the submarine contact, they were 80 nautical miles from the engagement area and descending. Call sign Cutlass Flight. Sahand's OS radar operators detected SLAS at 4,024. The frigate immediately began to maneuver, not toward Gravely, but away. The fast boats to the south began a disengagement turn. The contact geometry that had taken hours to assemble started to collapse in under 90 seconds. The submarine held its course for 4 more minutes. Then it too turned away, descending and slowing. The SW track held it at 5,100 meters, an opening when it lost contact with the thermal layer at the surface picture was empty. Iranian returned to the Ariana star at 4:38. The ship's crew, a Polish captain, 16 Filipino sailors, were found on the bridge deck, unharmed, hands bound with zip ties that they had already cut. 2 armed men in civilian clothes had boarded from a fast boat at 03:44. Held the crew for 40 minutes, and departed the same way they came when the fast boats began their withdrawal. The IFF transponder was recovered from the ship's radio room. It had been duct taped to the secondary transmitter housing. The serial number had been filed off. The investigation into how a U.S. vessel, military IFF transponder, ended up on an Iranian boarding team's equipment took 11 months. The results remain classified. Here is what is not classified. The operation the IRGCN ran that morning was the most sophisticated naval confrontation in the Gulf since the tanker war of the 1980s. It was not a provocation designed for propaganda. It was an operational test, a live exercise against a real U.S. destroyer, run at full complexity. to see how the Navy would respond to a multi-domain encirclement. The fast boats, the frigate, the submarine, the IFF. They were not meant to sink gravely. They were meant to map how it fights. The Cutely-S intercept ended it before the mapping was complete. But here's the question that the after-action reports don't answer. The question that every analyst who has read the classified timeline asks and cannot resolve. The operation required a submarine, moving a submarine into that position, coordinating it with surface forces, holding it in place during the entire fast boat approach. That is months of planning. The IFF transponder required access to U.S. military equipment. That is either theft or penetration of a supply chain. Neither of those things is improvised, which means the operation that gravely stopped on the morning of that engagement was not the first time this had been run. It was just the first time it had been run at full scale, against a real target with everything in place. The question that keeps the people who know the full picture awake is not what happened that morning. It's what the dry runs looked like, and whether any of them were ever detected. The Strait didn't close that day, but every navy in the world went back and recalculated what it would cost to try.